Hello and welcome to our webinar with the BBSA. My name is Famatta Mensah and I'm a second year here at the GSB, and I'm joined by two of our incoming presidents of the BBSA as well. I'm joined by Elise and Ruth. Like me, they're also current students, and as I mentioned, they're incoming presidents for the BBSA. We'll be talking about our personal journey to the GSB, some of our career decisions, and then life after the GSB for me, and answer as many questions as we can during this time. To submit a question, all you have to do is click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We won't be talking about the admissions process, financial aid. If you do have those questions, we encourage you to reach out to admissions and to financial aid to get those specific questions answered. Let's begin with introductions. Elise and Ruth, can you please start by telling us a little bit about yourselves, where you're from, what you'll be doing, what you were doing before you came to the GSB, and what you'll be doing after graduation. Elise, let's start with you.
Great. Thanks, Famatta. Hi, everyone. I'm Elyse Smith. I am originally from Chicago. As Famatta mentioned, I am in MBA 1. I'm also a joint degree student and am pursuing a master's in education. Prior to getting to Stanford, I was at IBM Watson, where I was developing early iterations of Watson for Education products and leading ed tech partnerships. And more recently was at New Schools Venture Fund, a philanthropic fund that invests in the education space, working in their diverse leaders portfolio.
Great. Thank you. Ruth, how about yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Ruth. Originally from Nigeria. I'm an MBA 1 incoming president, like Famatta said. I started my career at Ernst & Young, where I audited several entertainment and healthcare and real estate companies in Los Angeles, but I've also spent a significant portion of my career working in different capacities on the African continent, particularly in Kenya and Nigeria in fintech companies. So I'm super excited to be here and to answer you guys' questions.
Great. Thank you, guys. Let's get started with some questions submitted by the audience. Well, this one's a pretty easy one. Why did you come to Stanford, and what did you come to learn?
Do you want to start?
Sure. So why did I come to Stanford? I came to Stanford because I got in, number one. But I'd always known that I wanted to get my MBA because I knew I wanted to pivot my career from more finance focused to more tech focused. Like I said in my introductions, I am from Nigeria, and so one of my life goals is to help bring African-owned products to the rest of the world, and I felt that Stanford was the best place for that, and not just in terms of getting your MBA like you can at other schools, but really a hub for creativity like I've never seen before on any other MBA campus. And then what was the second question?
What did you come to learn? I think you.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I came to learn, and just meet amazing people from all over the world, which has definitely been a check off the checklist.
Yeah. Similarly, coming to Stanford for me was because it offered something that no other school did. So it's the Master's in Education joint degree program with the MBA. You can do it in 2 years, and which is a really positive experience and part of why I came. But also, I knew I was interested in social entrepreneurship. I knew that I wanted to be in an area where ed reform and social justice were a part of kind of the fabric of the environment. And I think that paired with kind of the entrepreneurial spirit, the VC spirit here in the Bay was something that I couldn't turn down.
Yeah, I think I definitely resonate with you guys on just the global experience. For me, it also was a lot of the soft skills, the ability to hone on and invest in myself. Mm-hmm. So I think that's also a really unique thing that Stanford does bring, whether that's through interpersonal dynamics, also known as touchy-feely, whether that's coaching and developing others and some of our peers. I think that those are two important things as well. What made you, I assume, Ruth, you're a pretty successful person, that you got into some other schools as well, and same as you, Elise. I think you guys talked about it a little bit, but can we really double down on why did you choose Stanford potentially over other opportunities that you may have had?
Yeah, I think I would like double touch on what you mentioned, Famatta, and that I think the Stanford program really focuses on becoming a leader that others want to follow, that helps you take time to think about what that means for your leadership style, and then gives you a bunch of opportunities to practice that and live through that. And so, whether it's giving a low keynote where you get to think about what's a point of view or perspective you want to share, and then getting to give a TED-like talk to the community. I took advantage of that opportunity this year. That was really powerful. Whether it's taking touchy-feely, getting to be a coach and a mentor for other students, or going through leadership labs where, that's your first quarter, you're working with a team and kind of a squad is what they call them, and getting to get feedback about how you come off, giving feedback to your other, kind of your peers, in this really exciting kind of collaborative environment. I didn't see that in other programs as much as an emphasis, and that was something that was important for me, knowing that I'd want to lead my own venture in the future.
Yeah. I think for me, funny enough, I chose Stanford because I was out of my comfort zone here. I used to do audit, so the process, everything is really laid out for you, and it's up to you just to kind of follow through on the rules. And I really felt like here, your experience is really what you make it, because administration really wants to see people do as many different types of things as possible. And I think in other schools, number one, it might be easy to get lost in the numbers, and then you're just kind of following the process that's laid out for you. But here, it's really about, yes, you can do things like lead labs and low keynotes, but you can also be fully working on your company and getting funded for that, and be one of many students getting funded for really amazing things that like they're doing. I know Elyse is one of those students getting funded for an amazing company. So for me, knowing that the school also focused more on the individual and less on clusters really spoke a lot to me, because I felt like my experience would be different than all other 400 students, and I really felt strongly that I would get that here. Also, you can't beat California's weather, and so all of those things are the reason why I chose Stanford.
Yeah. I think Stanford has so many niche opportunities too.
Yeah.
I think, for us, there's so many students doing different things, from some of my classmates who are beekeepers and working in agricultural, there's just so many things that people are doing, and especially things I never knew before.
Yeah, definitely.
That everyone is kind of doing their own thing,
Yeah.
but able to utilize the resources to their advantage, as you guys talked about, and as you definitely do know, working on your own amazing venture. And I think that's really unique about Stanford, is you have all the resources of the broader university, while still being able to be part of this organization and move forward with everyone else. So speaking of, from your guys' perspective, what is the Stanford community like? If someone were to ask you what makes Stanford Stanford, talk about kind of the cultural element and what you've experienced.
Yeah, I think I would say one of the things I love is this focus on kind of vulnerability and being open and being your authentic self. It's something that I think is really highlighted in the program Talk, where students get to talk about, 45 minutes to share whatever they want. Oftentimes it's personal stories about their lives, or things that they have thought about deeply, and the whole community comes out, MBA 1s, MBA 2s, and I think that, people are just standing giving an ovation for 5 minutes, it seems sometimes, and I think that to me is such a hallmark of the community, and I think it comes out then in other places in just one-on-one conversations and coffee chats. Someone got a coffee chat with me the other day. We were talking about media and new media, but we didn't get there until the last 15 minutes. And for the first 30 minutes, it was just us learning about each other, getting to know what drives us, talking about having a partner at the GSB. And so I think that, to me, the piece where it's you're not necessarily this business person where you're I'm going to get a coffee chat to learn about finance and I'm going to only talk about that. It's we're people first, and I think that's something that's really beautiful about the community.
Yeah.
Something that I love about Stanford community is actually just the layout of the community. So we have, for those who haven't visited Stanford yet, we have classes really on one side of the street and residential areas on the other side of the street. So it takes all of 2 minutes to get from your doorstep to class. And it's not even just about the distance it takes to get to class. It's more about the community that you have as a first year, where you're not driving extremely far to see your classmates, or you're not, if you're going through something, whether it's a homework assignment or something at home, either your roommates or or 400 friends are there with you within a really small radius. And I think that just I think so over 95% of, I would say, first years live in these residences. They're pretty nice. It does feel like a golf resort a lot of the days, but I also think that it helps to create a real true sense of community because you're not worried about distance. We do so many events in the residences, from birthdays to bridal showers to you name it. We just hang out together. We also definitely have time to go to the city, but I think that part really just like creates a natural space for people to get to know each other, like outside of what might be a natural clique in another area. So, for example, none of my friend groups are a status quo group, and I really like that, and I think that the residences really help to create that.
Yeah.
But even if you don't live in the residences, you still, you can still be a
to-
part of the community.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Yeah, great. We have some more questions. So I think this is a great one for us. So getting a little bit into more the pre-application process. Have any of you been involved in MLT or other programs through B-school applications? And
Yeah.
we're laughing because MLT was what I did. Ruth, I know you did.
I
Elise
did it,
did.
yeah.
So why don't we take a second to talk about that?
Yeah. For me personally, MLT was a life changer. Coming from LA, I didn't really have a circle of people that were like-minded and ambitious as I was. And I think the vibe that MLT provides you with, just like amazing people of color from all over the country. I think almost 300 were in our cohort who have the same, like who are as ambitious as you are. That really helped me in terms of this whole application process. I also was a rare case where I did MLT from Africa, so it was still relatively easy for me to keep in contact with my coach as well as my my MLT cohort. So in terms of MLT really being just like you feel like you're in the trenches together with other people, you're getting recommendations together, you're reading each other's essays. I know one of my classmates helped me read my essay for Stanford. We read each other's essay and we both got in. So MLT was really amazing. I know there are other programs like Forte for Women and things like that, but those things really helped me feel like I had a community even before I got to Stanford, and I still have that community today.
Yeah, I think for me, MLT was really helpful and valuable, but I think because I wasn't confident that I wanted to go to business school and it was still something I was weighing, I think I maybe got a little bit less out of the program. I also, I wasn't necessarily interested in going to just any business school, and I think for me, I really had my heart set on Stanford. And so I think although it was really helpful to go through that kind of program and explore a bunch of different programs, I think for me, I knew I wanted to come here, and I wasn't sure if business school was the right thing. I was coming most recently from the social sector, and so I think it was a great network and a great experience, but I think without it, it also is possible to apply and get to school and make a network and community here as well.
Yeah. So to clarify what MLT is,
Good question.
we should do that first. It is Management Leadership for Tomorrow. It's essentially a program that's geared at filling the pipeline from the CEO suite, the C-suite, all the way down to entry into college. And this specific program is the MBA prep. So that's one of the lines, the pipelines in there. So what MLT specifically does is geared at African Americans, Hispanics, and Native Americans, again, to fill that pipeline of traditionally underrepresented minorities in the space. And so it's just a coaching program. You have a cohort, as Ruth mentioned. It's really just a support system for about a year before business school starts. So really understanding the process, knowing what it takes to get in, knowing what your profile needs to be, and you get coaching. And so it's essentially a great program and highly recommend it. Feel free to look it up. I also did MLT, and for me, I think similar to Ruth, what she mentioned is my cohort was very instrumental in even me coming to Stanford. I already knew a ton of people who had gotten in round one. I applied round two, so it was great just having people who I knew look like me, who I had met, who were extraordinary people, but also people that I've shared a drink with or gone to lunch with. actually having someone that I knew went to Stanford. I think prior to MLT, I didn't know anybody that went to Stanford. So it just made it still aspirational, but an achievable concept for me. Let's stick on applications. I love this question. Were you ever scared at any point in time of applying? And is the school just full of nerds?
That's an interesting question. Definitely not.
I don't think I'm a nerd. I don't know about you.
I mean,
guys.
is being a nerd a bad
I
thing?
aspire to be a nerd.
Yeah.
It is Nerd Nation. So
Nerd Nation. You want to?
Yeah, sure. I think scared is an interesting word. I think for me it always felt like you couldn't guarantee you were going to get in, and I think that's true for every business school, and I think perhaps especially true for Stanford. And so I think for me it was always one is business school right for me, especially where I'm at now in my journey. Is this the best step to take? And then two, is this, it's such a time investment to apply. It's like almost it felt like a different job outside of my regular job, and had to get support from mentors and advisors. And it was like, if I'm going to go through this, I want to make sure I'm putting my time in the right place. And so I think it was scary in that sense. It was scary to invest so much time into something that didn't feel for sure. And then also I wasn't sure. And so a lot of those uncertainties were at play. Are we all nerds? I don't know how to answer that. I definitely would aspire to be a nerd.
Yeah.
I enjoy the classes a lot and love learning. And if that makes me a nerd, then I guess there I am.
Yeah.
For me, I wasn't scared because I really was applying to Stanford blind in a lot of ways. Similar to Famatta, I didn't really know people that went to Stanford. I knew one person that went to Stanford before I got in. And I know that there are people who might have known dozens of people just based on people that worked with them or friends or family members and things like that. So I don't even think I knew enough to be scared, to be honest with you guys. But I think that I really just applied on my best foot. And I think we might get into some questions about when is it right to apply and things like that. But I applied knowing that this is the best I have to offer. And thankfully, it was good enough. So super happy about that. In terms of being a nerd here, and are we all nerds? I actually think what I've noticed here at Stanford is that people really aspire to improve themselves intellectually, and that has become sort of currency, one of the different currencies. And I don't think that that's a bad thing, because in terms of having fun, like, fun is in you. So if you can't have fun and you're not a nerd, that could be possible too. So I don't think that, and I think that being a nerd is actually a good thing, personally, but that doesn't take away from having an amazingly fun and amazingly great experience. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I mean, I think exactly what you said. People here have done amazing things or aspiring to do amazing things. I would consider people aspirational, but that also sometimes is correlated with wanting to read a book and maybe
Right.
Yeah, but equally we have a lot of fun. I think if you want to be social, there's something every single day. I think I've gotten myself caught into that sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to just fall back and read a book
Yeah.
or watch some Netflix on the weekend just to calm down. But I think the school you'll find is over 400 students in one grade. So once you kind of combine all the programs, you have over 800 people. Just naturally 800 people, you're going to have a range of what people do want to do and what they don't want to do. So I actually consider even the diversity in people's experiences and what they want to do. And even on the nerd scale, I say there's a diversity as well.
Yeah. For those who do want to come and nerd out, though, there's
you
definitely
can do it.
opportunities to do that. You can be super focused on academics. You can nerd out in terms of one of my favorite groups is this political group. We come together and discuss politics once a month. This past month was super heated. Some months it's a little more chill, but that sort of thing, that's a community that I consider we all nerd out on different facts like that. So different ways to be a nerd and different ways to engage in the community.
This might be a good time to to ask or to tell people kind of your favorite activities. I think you mentioned that, or clubs. I can start. One of my favorite clubs is the wine club, just because it's so amazing. We have sommeliers, so speaking a little bit of nerdy, but in the wine sense, they come, they do tastings, we talk about the notes and the tannins and all that. And we've had, especially with Napa Valley being right up the road, we've had special guests come and special wineries come and teach us and be a little bit more educated in the wine space. So that's one of my favorites.
I have like so many favorites.
Yeah.
This is really hard.
Pick two. Pick one or two.
I'm sure we'll talk about the BBSA later, so we can put that aside.
Yeah, for now.
I love the social entrepreneurship community. So the social innovation, there's the club, there's the Center for Social Innovation. There's just like a ton of pieces and ways to plug into that community. And they've not only been super helpful in starting something of my own, but also in just providing support and guidance and just folks to talk about different things. And so social entrepreneurship kind of runs the gamut and social innovation runs the gamut. But getting to learn from other MBA students' experience has been super valuable to me, as well as the advisors and the mentors and like Venture Studio. You can go work on your idea there. There's just, I should stop talking because I could go on forever.
I think one of my favorite activities here is traveling. I'm gonna go there.
Fair.
So, and the funny thing is, at the GSB, traveling can mean a ton of things. So it can mean going to Yellowstone and spending a weekend hiking and with people that you've gotten to know, or it can be getting an academic experience in another country, which we call GSTs here, or it can be going to Indonesia and making your own cultural and academic experience, or doing that in Cuba. So I love how just very textured our traveling experiences are here. You can have a great time where you do nothing, or you have a lot of alcohol, or you can have a really great learning experience. And it's not just because the school mandates it, it's because people have this drive to really immerse themselves in different cultures and in different experiences, and humbly get to know those cultures and experiences. So in terms of me, all the places that I've been to with my Stanford, whether friends or classmates, for the purpose of the school or for the purpose of just like us planning a trip, I've had just an amazing time. And even in the times that are not specifically learning experiences, I've still learned something because I got to know my classmates a little bit better because we were in the middle of Cuba together, or I got to know what business is like in Brazil and what the future of tech in Brazil is going to look like in the next 10 years.
Yeah. And I think your point about the international component too, we do have a big international presence here at Stanford. And so that also helps too, is you get to go to your classmates' home country of Mexico.
Kazakhstan.
And so Mexico, and then even some South Korea,
Lebanon,
Lebanon,
Israel, just all over.
All
Africa,
over. South Africa, Zimbabwe,
that's right.
so that's also a really cool experience too, is there doesn't have to be an official school-sponsored event, but through your classmates, you can still get that experience and that exposure. And those have been some of the best experiences here at Stanford for me. So another question is, Stanford has an exceptionally diverse class. Look at that transition. How is it being a person of color at the GSB, considering the environment at other top schools and low percentages in the minority communities?
For me, I would say that being a minority here, in terms of me having the identity of being African, but also considering myself Black American, I think that it is different from other schools. That have much larger classes just because of numbers. So if you have like a 400 student class versus a 900 student class, obviously there will be more, or hopefully I would say there would be more people of color from a numbers perspective. But what I love about this this community is that because we are smaller, we have so many more opportunities to get to know each other, and in a lot of ways we feel like we're in the trenches together in terms of continuing to create more access for those coming after us. I will say that it makes you feel like you are more of an agent of change rather than more of a cog in the process. I don't know if that's the right phrase. And I also love the fact that in terms of, I'll speak within the Black community, there's so many different experiences within that community. I've never met a diverse group of Black people like I've met at Stanford. And I love that because I get to see what life is like if you're from the Midwest, or what life is like if you're from the Upper East Side of New York, or what life is like if you're from Johannesburg, South Africa, you know, and people get to understand what my life was like too. So I love that. In terms of now looking outward for the rest of our classmates, I will say that I've also never met a more set of intrigued people who genuinely want to know what my experience is as a Black woman, and who want to come into that with humility, as well as just a sense of wanting to learn what my life is like, and hopefully wanting to connect with me in that way. And so that's also something that I've seen in a lot of my classmates, and I appreciate from a lot of my classmates as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think kind of echoing what you're saying, Ruth, coming to the GSB and being a woman of color, being a Black woman, I think is going to be colored by your experiences prior to that. So I went to a predominantly white undergraduate institution, you know, have operated in a business world which isn't as diverse as I would like it to be. And I think, you know, coming to Stanford was no different than those experiences. And if anything, I found the community to be focused on increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion here. So I'm on the diversity committee. It's a hugely diverse group of students who are like, we're out here just like pushing even more advancement in terms of what experiences could be like for students of color, for students of historically underrepresented backgrounds, for students who are in different minority groups or hold different identities. And so to me, that's kind of part of my way of, one, doing something that I care deeply about, something that affects me. It's also related to the social venture I'm working on. And so getting to work in a bunch of different ways on that has been really powerful. And working with the administration, working with other student leaders on campus has been really fun and rewarding. I think personally, like I would echo the Black community at Stanford, super diverse. I think the whole community is diverse. And I think I already mentioned talk, but one of the things I've loved about that is it exposes, even though, you know, this person might appear a certain way and you might assume different identities or experiences to them and prescribe that. I think what is amazing about Stanford is people will surprise you, what they've been through, what they've overcome, and that's true across all backgrounds. And so I think in many ways, I feel very much one of so many different stories in this larger community, and I think my experience is one that people seek out, and I seek out learning about others too. So it's been good.
Yeah, and I would also add that I think being presidents of the BBSA also provides a unique opportunity.
Yeah.
So whether that's working with administration on our diversity initiatives, whether that was someone tapping me on the shoulder to do some moderating work yesterday evening, I think we are in a very visible position, both pun intended and not, and that allows us to get involved and be part of conversations and have a seat at the table. So I think that's important too. All right. So I think speaking of inclusion, this is I think a really important question. So someone mentioned they really want to apply to the MBA program, but the cost of the program is a really big hurdle. Was that also a concern for either of you? And does Stanford offer any financial support? First, before they jump in, I will say I encourage you to go to our financial aid on our website. There's some information there. And financial aid, as I'm sure this person asked, is a very personal situation. So take what we say, you know, with the right lens for yourself. But if you do reach out to financial aid, they will give you more specifics. But if you guys don't mind sharing kind of personally for you, how you thought about it.
Yeah, I think definitely the cost of attending business school is one of the hurdles for me to get over mentally, in not only applying, but once getting in, if business school was right for me. It's a super hard decision. Like Famatta said, it's super personal as well. What I can say is that since coming to the GSB, I've felt like I'm getting what I'm paying for in many ways, and more than I could have imagined. And I think, starting this venture, meeting these people, getting to do these new experiences that are so much more kind of scope expanding in terms of how I saw my life, what I saw as possible for myself, what careers exist. So like what could be has been such a valuable part of the experience that I can't necessarily put like a tangible, like this costs that amount, and therefore it's a return on my investment. But I can say that that's something you're going to have to decide individually for yourself, but have found my time here to be so valuable already. We're only at kind of the beginning of our spring quarter of first year, at least Ruth and I. And so, you know, happy to talk more about that one-on-one, but I think it's something you're going to have to think deeply about for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me too, I tend to be very risk averse. So I was thinking about, how would I pay this off and things like that. But I think even as a risk averse person, it was very clear to see that the ROI here was going to be high. I think for me, again, everybody is going to have a different financial aid sort of offer if and when you do get into the school based on different scholarships that the school offers and things like that. But I will say that even coming here and just expanding my mind as to what my financial future can even look like based on my different classmates' experiences and what I've learned from different professors has made the cost seems so myopic. It makes me feel like I thought so myopically about things, whereas I'm like, actually, this is how I should even envision what my financial future should look like, and this is how small this cost is compared to that. So I would even encourage people not to necessarily, regardless of what school you're applying, not to necessarily see this thing as okay, once I graduate school, I'm going to have to be paying off my loans for the next 2 years or the next 5 years or 10 years because, I'm probably going to be making this much. Definitely really just understand that your financial future really is way more expansive than probably most people think it is, and this can be a really small cost if you really take advantage of really a lot of opportunities that you have just because you would have the Stanford brand on your name throughout your career, literally for the rest of your career.
Yeah. I will add that for folks who are thinking about going into nonprofit or social sector or any sort of perhaps less lucrative career, there is a loan forgiveness program that you should look into. It's something that was a huge part of my deciding to come, knowing that if I wanted to go back and work at an education nonprofit or do something in that space, the cost actually is perhaps prohibitive, but with loan forgiveness, it became a lot more reasonable and feasible for me, at least personally.
Yeah, and the school also offers, to Elise's point, opportunities for people who want to go into the social sector right after school. Offers different sorts of fellowship packages, which, again, like Famatta said, you guys can look online for. But, great point.
So I'm not going to respond to that question because there's a flurry of questions going on. So I'm going to try to get to all these questions before we're out of time. So, Elise, I'm going to direct this to you.
Okay.
So as someone coming from the social sector, how have you viewed the business school experience? And then for someone who's interested in the social sector, what do you say is the value of business school?
Yeah. So I think coming directly from K-12 education, which is extremely progressive, I was a little taken aback getting into the business school realm and having people say things like fiduciary responsibility. And I was like, but the kids, but I think it has, what about the kids? But I think it has been super valuable. I think there's classes like financial modeling, which are just skills that are important to know. Accounting was like a struggle at the beginning, but I think it is important to build that kind of business acumen, whether you're in the social sector or the private sector. I think there's, I think having that joint degree and being in master's in education is also a nice pairing personally for me. One of my ed classes, we were like sitting on the floor, like legs crossed. There was like a fire on like the projector, you know what I mean? So different vibes, but I also think that vibe can be found in the business school. And so choosing classes like social ventures practicum or philanthropy, there's just like a ton of that sort of energy in the community. And so, I think although you might come here and be like, everyone's going to be doing like consulting and finance, like that's not true. And in fact, so many people talk about the impact they want to have and what that means in whatever career they're pursuing. So, yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I think the other thing too that's really unique about Stanford that you alluded to is that there's so many social related classes.
Yes.
And then I know one of my good friends is also a dual in the education program, and he said that one of those classes on just like the thought process of instituting education reform and then coupling that with policy in the business school was a way that he even thought about that. So I'd say get creative too on how you think about the social sector and what skills on both sides, so the private and the public sector, what you can do there.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. So I think related on mentality and mindset, Ruth, I think this is a good one too. How has the MBA program transformed your perspective on the issues you seek to tackle as a leader in your field? And have your interactions with other MBA students made you consider collaborating across fields in the near future? Yeah.
I think for me, in terms of the type of leader that I want to be, I think coming from a very corporate role before the MBA made me think of a leader as kind of I had this profile of what a leader looked like, and you had to say certain things and you had to act a certain way, and you couldn't be vulnerable in A, B, C, or D way. Whereas here, we're literally turning the definition of what a leader is upside down, and vulnerability is shown as a sign of strength, and being able to be honest about what type of impact you want to have is not a bad thing, and it's not just about the bottom line. I don't even think I've ever heard that actually used in terms of what people would consider a successful run of any sort of business or initiative. And so for me, knowing what I want to do and knowing the type of impact that I want to have in Africa, I think that what I've learned is that it doesn't have to be one way. The awesome thing is, for example, I'm taking a class right now in our design school, which is an awesome school, by the way, called Design Thinking Studio. And I'm seeing how the problems that I want to solve even don't have to be through tech, which a lot of people would be surprised about coming to Stanford. They probably think that we're super tech focused and it's only tech, everything is tech, but we're really like breaking things down to the bare minimum, literally using our hands to build things and figure out how can we solve a world problem from so many different ways. In my class alone, I'm working with a student from the medical school, somebody from School of Education, somebody from the law school, right? We're all working on one project together. And so I'm learning different things from how do I solve this problem through policy? How do I solve it through journalism? Like there's so many different ways to think about solving problems and so many different ways of what a leader looks like that it's helped me to really, again, break the stereotypes of what I thought the path I thought I had to go, and really understand that there's so many different innovative ways to solve different problems, and there's so many ways to do that as me, not as a profile of somebody who I think people want to see.
Yeah. I'll actually take this similar question. But to build on that, I think it's also important for me, I'm realizing as I'm heading out, is that leadership is a journey, not a destination. And so as we have classes like Leadership Perspectives, we have prominent people coming in, and it's just they give an intro and then they just stop, and we just get to ask them questions and thinking about chairmans of Microsoft and all these other places, just the ability to ask questions like, how do you manage your career? How do you manage your career, a dual career? How do you, it's been amazing. And so really recognizing that even people at the top of the mountain are still working on the next thing for themselves. The similar question here is, people of color face unique challenges in the workforce. Would you say the GSB gave you the tools to navigate the unique challenges people of color face in the modern workplace? So I'll take that. I think the answer is yes. As we mentioned, through BBSA, we get to have some of these, tough conversations, and we get to talk what is it like being a Black woman, and we get to talk with our male counterparts about here are some of the unique challenges that we face that maybe you guys aren't really as in tune with. I think the other thing that Stanford has taught me is, I think using my voice and really feeling comfortable with my truth. Whether that's through talk, whether that's through leadership labs, actually getting the feedback that I think sometimes as an African American, getting the feedback that you're articulate can be a little but then I actually realized, because one of my classmates was like, no, Famatta, you're actually very articulate. Like, you are above the average. And I was like, okay, so for the first time, I actually realized like, oh, okay, this is what this looks like. So I think it's really important to recognize that you're constantly getting feedback, and through that feedback, there is that self-reflection and recognizing that, okay, here's how I land on other people or present to other people, and therefore here's what I can do as a business leader to either double down on that, or I need to adjust some of my behavior to seem more warm and more welcoming, or whatever that may be. So I don't think there's there wasn't a class on like how to be a Black leader, but through these experiences and recognizing and reflecting, I think has allowed me to recognize there are challenges, and having conversations with classmates, having the courage to speak up. There is a way to address, some things like, hey, have you recognized that this makes me feel this way when you say this? Just really having the courage to speak up, and then kind of stand in my own truth, I think is important too.
Yeah, there is a class though, Leadership from Diverse Perspectives.
sorry. There is that
I'm going
class.
to take it in the fall, so I'm excited to get into
And
that.
I am building diverse organizations, so there are some diversity related ones. Okay, so this is going to be a rapid one for you guys. Let's talk about the academic experience. What's the curriculum like? Maybe high level case studies versus experiential versus lecture.
They're different. There's so many different ways to learn here, which I think are awesome. So we do have classes that, you know, you read a case each week and you kind of discuss it. We have classes where each week is you are getting, I'm taking a finance class, for example, right now, and it's awesome. I love my class. So essentially it feels like I have two professors who really, it feels like they write a script the night before every night and like feed off of each other for finance.
Yeah.
And so they help me learn finance in a way that I've never learned it before. It's not about just equations. It's about actually understanding why things happen and really when I'm paying attention to the class, I actually can apply it to whatever I'll be doing in the future. And then they bring in professionals from CFOs of Fortune 500 companies who we can really ask questions, deep and meaningful and applicable questions to. So I'll let you guys talk about your experiences, but there's so many different ways to learn here. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, there is like a core curriculum around management foundations, which, as the title says, it's foundational courses in business.
Yeah.
But I think Ruth alluded to this earlier, and there's classes that you take in the business school. You can take classes across the street. One of my favorite classes was, or across the street is in other programs at Stanford. One of my favorite classes was in the engineering school. It's called the Lean Launchpad. It's a bunch of folks from all different schools coming together to like explore product market fit. It's taught by a bunch of folks in VC. They bring in mentors from industry. So that was a great class. That's super experiential. But I mean, even at the business school, I'm in a class that's all about social ventures practicum. I mentioned it earlier, but we essentially go through what is needed in a business plan. And each class is focused on one piece of that. They bring in leaders who have actually gone through that class and are now leading social ventures. So someone came in from, I think it was Zimbabwe last week. Someone was calling in from like Pakistan or you know what I mean? It was like a lot of different people doing different things, which was cool. And so lots of group projects, lots of different ways to learn. And I think that's good since everyone learns differently.
Yeah, cool. I know there's still some questions on here on career and professional development, so I'm just going to go ahead and take those. So there's a question on structured mentorship programs and opportunities. I would say it's not structured. There are some things that we have with the Career Management Center, but the Career Management Center, I also sit on that committee, has programs available to you if you're trying to transition from social sector to consulting. There's a consulting club. We also have a finance and investments club. We have various clubs that take on essentially the mentorship role. And then when you start at Stanford, you'll have a fellow, an Arbuckle fellow, who's a second year, who's also there to help coach you as well. So that's an opportunity. Question for the president. What's next for you after the GSB? I'll take that. So for me, I will be moving to Chicago and working at the Boston Consulting Group. So I get a nice little break, so I'll probably do some travel and hanging out with folks. Okay, so last question for everyone. Did you pay a visit to campus before applying? And if so, was the visit worth it? And then when would you recommend someone visit? And
Ooh.
So, like I said, my application process was a little bit different. I didn't know a ton of people before applying. I did visit Stanford, but I didn't even tell administration what my name was, because at that point I didn't feel like saying who I was going to move the needle, and I think that played out as I thought it would. I think visiting the Stanford campus, while it is important, I do think that you should have a reason as to why you're visiting if you really need to be here. I do think the pictures do a great justice, and California is what people say it is. So if you are, for example, applying from a different country, don't feel like you're at a loss because you can't be physically on the campus before you apply. But I will definitely say that if you apply and you do get in, definitely obviously visit the campus for admit weekend to just get to see how the vibe is before you actually come.
is there another time they should visit?
So my application process was very long. I most recently was in the Bay Area before school, but also was in New York before that. And so I visited campus when I was in New York. I came for the Diverse Perspectives Day, which I think is coming up for Black students or historically underrepresented students. And that was actually a really great event. I loved meeting other folks who were applying, hearing different backgrounds. I also loved the alumni who came back and talked about their experience at the GSB. Met admissions folks. That was helpful for me and kind of building this in as what Stanford would be. And then when I lived in the Bay, it was easy to come down and check out campus again.
Yeah.
I also visited, sorry to interrupt you, but we had when I did get in, I came for Admit Weekend, which was also the conference weekend, which we're holding this year on May 10th and 11th.
Yeah.
And so it was an amazing experience for me because I think the one of the keynote speakers that day was the person who heads up all of Beyonce's conglomerate.
Casual
casual
guy.
So it was such a great experience to meet so many amazing professionals, so many amazing alumni from decades to recently, so many amazing perspectives and current students. So that was a really great weekend for me. And that's where I also met Famatta. I also met a lot of people who are my classmates now.
Yeah. So quick plug for that. If you go to bbsaconference.com, you can find all the information. There also will be a Prospective Students Day portion on the 10th. So look for all that information on our website. And also, as mentioned, Diversity Day will be on the 18th, and we'll also have kind of a deep dive with professors, and you'll probably see us and many more of the current students as well.
Yeah.
All right. So we're out of time. And so I would love to give you guys 10 seconds before we go to say any final words of advice for people thinking and applying to Stanford MBA.
I would say that Stanford is and can be for you. Whatever your passions are, whatever you aspire to, you can come here and make that reality. It's a beautiful place where I've never felt like I could do whatever I wanted to until I came to Stanford. And I think it's partially because of the community, because of the resources. But I hope to see you here on campus soon.
Yeah. I would definitely say Stanford is a one-of-a-kind place where you get an experience that can only be the best thing for you. And I would definitely say that in terms of relationships, not just with students, but with professors, with companies in the area. It's definitely been a great value add in my life. So I would encourage you guys to apply and, yes, hopefully see you guys next fall.
Yeah, you won't see me because I'll be gone.
Or fall after that.
Fall after that. Yeah, I have some time. I might come back to campus. But anyway, great. Thank you both. And thank you guys for joining us today and your thoughtful questions. Again, we encourage you to reach out. Admissions can put you in contact with anybody in the BBSA if you do have any more specific questions that we didn't answer. And we look forward to seeing you for the conference or Diversity Day, the weekend of the 10th or the 18th. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.